Thanks for tuning in to a special From the Stacks episode of How's Things, a podcast from the David A. Howe Public Library. On our next regular episode, the Queen of Halloween, Sally Jacoby Murphy, is going to be stopping by for a rare off-season appearance on the podcast. She and I are going to be talking about our favorite books and movies and shows from 2020 and even share some of your comments there. So remember, you can find that episode and a variety of past episodes at soundcloud.com/allthebooks or anywhere you get your podcasts. Over on RadioMeanwhile.com, my old pal Eric Mickles and I recounted our favorite graphic novels of 2020 on the All the Book Show spinoff Comic Book Coffee Break. Let's listen in, shall we? Going beyond the pages, all the books through the ages. All right, well, we decided to skip a quarter bin this week since it's the first episode of the new year and talk about some of our favorite graphic.
I don't have enough money to even for the quarter bin this week.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thought we'd just do a top 5 of our favorite graphic novels that we read in 2020. Not necessarily things that came out in 2020, but things that we read and enjoyed. So give me your first one. What do you got?
I tried to keep mine close to 2020. For the DC Black Label, I chose Wonder Woman Dead Earth as the one because it was recent and it's probably my favorite of the DC Black Label stuff I've read.
Yeah, I would agree.
This was 2020, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it just came out in December.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was fun. I thought it had a crazy vision and it went for it. And I'd like to see more ridiculous stuff like this rather than what if instead of 3 Jokers there were 4 Jokers.
Yeah, I like that they took a chance and did something different. I think now is definitely the time to do that. And why have a Black Label if you're not going to take big swings like that?
Just so everybody can do their Arkham Asylum.
I guess
everybody's chasing that Grant Morrison Arkham Asylum dream.
I didn't have high hopes for a Frank Miller Superman story, but I thought Superman Year One was just such a train wreck.
Yeah.
So stupid.
Yeah.
A Superman that I did like in 2020, I've already name dropped in this episode, but Superman Smashes the Klan is right at the top of my list. Gene Luen Yang. If you haven't read that, go find it because it's really, because it's great start to finish. Visually, it's really impressive. The story it tells is good. I can't recommend it enough, so check it out.
This is also on my list.
Oh, okay.
I really liked it.
Look at that. We meet in the middle.
Again, my feelings on it is that I would own this if they put it out in a more traditional hardcover format. Like this is the format it's in is definitely geared towards the younger readers. It's more tradey. It matches other young or juvenile graphic novels, but the story and the Superman stuff in here is just really good. It has kind of a classic vibe. If they put it out in a more if they did a prestige printing of this, I would definitely have that in my collection.
One that I really enjoyed was, and this is not from 2020, this is 80s, I think, Green Arrow, The Wonder Year by Mike Grell. And this actually does kind of fit with the different Wonder Year. But this actually does fit with my quarter bin because I had an issue of this that I got for a quarter from my childhood. But this is just a tight Green Arrow story that's kind of his first year as Green Arrow. There's a political story in the backdrop. It is, without question, my favorite Green Arrow story. If somebody was going to say, hey, I never read Green Arrow, what should I read? I would give them The Wonder Year.
Is it just about him in high school hitting puberty?
No, you're confusing it with the Fred Savage series, The Wonder Years, and it's different. But I did a deep dive on the Mike Grell run for the All the Book Show, actually. We did a whole Green Arrow spotlight when the Arrow TV show was going off the air. So you can find that at soundcloud.com/allthebooks or wherever you get your podcasts, because that was a fun episode. But yeah, Green Arrow Wonder Year was the best thing to come out of that reread for me. So I highly recommend that.
The Oliver Queen Winnie romance is just... It's really vital.
It is.
It's a vital part of his history.
It's a seminal moment. Yeah, for sure. You're still trying to think of Wonder Year jokes instead of telling me your next one.
I know.
On your list.
Why was I allowed to watch Wonder Years as a kid? That show was so sexual.
It's sexually charged.
I'm 6 years old watching that, going "Wah!"
Well, I mean, look at me. I was watching Beverly Hills 90210, so I guess yours was at least supposed to be a family show.
Yeah. All right. I chose the Animorphs graphic novel, which was also this year.
Oh, yes.
And you better believe I was the first person to check this one out of my library.
I do believe that,
and
yeah.
At the same time, I feel bad about that because, maybe some kids wanted to check it out. But also, kids can't come in the library right now.
Speaking of libraries, I thought of you recently because I went in over the holiday break and was checking in. We were closed, but I went in to check in some of the things that were piling up, and I checked in a whole stack of Animorph books that had been requested on hold that came back. So somebody in Western New York is reading through the Animorph series, and we have them all thanks to one Eric Mickles.
When did I read this? In October? It came out in October, so there you go. Who was it? Chris Grine is the one who adapted it for the graphic novel and everything. But yes, I felt this was as perfect as an adaptation for the first Animorph books as you can get. And what's nice about the Animorphs is that unlike a lot of comic books, there's not a lot of like retconning you have to do. If you're to do the invasion, you don't then have to be like, oh, well, with knowledge of what we have here, like the only thing is stuff that was already planned out. So the hints were already there. Yeah. So that's nice. But yeah, I mean, I've read the invasion in book form so many times, but reading this again, I was just like jazzed. I found an Animorph Reddit that I just ate up the memes for. So this was great. I definitely will read more of these, having read them all.
It's smart to do because when we, again, you can go look at the All the Book Show because we did a whole Animorph spotlight on this, and I read the invasion for that, and it's smart to do because it's a much more like dense kind of sci-fi than I was expecting for that for that age bracket, but it is woefully dated because it's just chocked full of modern for the 90s pop culture references.
I'm pretty sure they talk about 90210.
They do.
They do in the series. I think they compare themselves to Luke Perry at times. Like I think Axe even says like I do something like I saw Dylan do on the show. I mean the bands, everything is very 90s, and this one, the graphic novel balanced it. It didn't feel like the 90s, but I wasn't like, well, that wasn't how it worked then. I mean, there was just stuff when I looked at it, I'm like, well, that is how I imagined it. Mm-hmm. I guess I wish I could be a kid again.
Yes.
At however old I was at this.
Everyone knows.
I guess I wish that there was some, I don't know. I can never reread the Animorphs and get the same thing from it again.
That's true, you can.
I just love them. I just love the Animorphs.
Do you remember for like 5 seconds when you and I were talking about doing an Animorphs podcast and then you looked and somebody had beaten us by like a day?
We had waited, I had been like, oh, we should do this Animorph books where you've never read them and I've read them.
Yeah.
And we just make it like a 25-minute episode.
Yeah.
And then I waited the weekend.
Yeah.
And that Monday, one had popped up. And then after that, is 20. You can't, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Just for the record, I would still do this. I just want that on record.
The Animorphs reread. I've listened to one or two. They get very serious about it. Some people a little bit more serious about this stuff than even like the Animorphs, which I love more than anything. Sometimes people get like, this thing is like this was brought down from Mount Sinai by Moses himself. I'm like, well, I still like making fun of the stuff I love. Like I do the X-Men podcast, and I'm always mocking the X-Men in it because a lot of times they do dumb stuff. So with the Animorphs, I'd probably make fun of it. I wouldn't let you make fun of it. You would say stuff about it, like, listen, kid.
No, you think that I'm stupid enough to make that mistake to criticize the Animorphs in your presence? I would never. My third pick here is my one Archie pick for the year. So I've really been enjoying all of the modern Archie stuff. But this one stood out to me, and that's Sabrina the Teenage Witch by Kelly Thompson.
You cheated!
Well, it's the Archie universe. Volume 2 is not quite out yet. It's a long time in between. I said
my favorite
volumes.
Animorphs book was Goosebumps.
Yeah, that wouldn't count.
That's what this is.
But this Kelly Thompson Sabrina the Teenage Witch finds just the right line because obviously, like old school Sabrina the Teenage Witch is just goofy to the max, you know. And modern Sabrina, like the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, is very like Satan heavy, which is not my jam at all. But I found this one.
You should read Hellblazer.
No, thanks. I found the right balance here because it does have like that magical element, and there is a layer of spookiness to it, but it is much more like magical spooky than like demonic spooky. And it still kind of maintains some of the humor from the old style like Sabrina story. So this to me was a 5-star read, and I've been anxiously awaiting volume 2 for, gosh, I don't even know, almost a year now. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, what's your next pick?
Well, I was going to say, how have we not gotten into Sabrina the Teenage Witch / Bewitched crossover ever?
That's a travesty. Yeah.
We did get a Bewitched Dream of Genie crossover?
Did we? No, I don't think so.
Why?
That's a mistake.
Why?
That's a mistake. Why? You're right.
It seems like the thing to do. Man, that would have been great. Remember when I met Barbara Eden?
I do, yeah. I've seen the pictures.
That's...
Yeah.
I mean, she was much, much older.
Yeah.
But it's still just like, hi, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Barbara Eden.
Yeah.
My voice was cracking. I hit puberty a second time.
I know you did. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So, anyway.
What else? Yeah, what else you got?
Okay, so this was... I think this started in 2018, but the hardcover came out in 2019, which meant I read it in 2020.
Okay.
So, I'll just pick the House of X, Powers of X, X-Men crossover.
Yeah, you have to.
With Jonathan Hickman. This was much better than I thought it was going to be because I don't like Jonathan Hickman in general. I find his writing to be a lot. I don't know how to describe his writing. I read his Infinity and his Avengers and stuff. I was like, I just wanted to die reading that stuff. I've never read comics like that before. I was like, you know what? Just kill me. Just kill me so I don't have to either quit reading this or continue reading this. Because I'm trapped in this molasses of a story. I can't get out. I'm sinking. Just end it. And I did get out. And I'm stronger for it. But the X-Men stuff, this series was just so weird. And what it was really doing, it was just telling a crazy sci-fi story, but with the X-Men and using the X-Men in their history and the powers and characters to do this stuff. So it's kind of a story about like immortality and starting a new separate nation and, you know, evolution, but also this other character having lived multiple lives and trying to save mutant kind. And a lot of this stuff could just be something that you just put in a crazy sci-fi story, but then he works around these powers that the characters have to do that immortality and bring in some of this history. So it was good. It was an entertaining read. I was very surprised by how much I liked it. There's a lot of like information in there. Like some pages are just like info fact pages. They're just pages that are just graphs of information. And I still found those like very entertaining. I don't know. It surprised me because I don't like Jonathan Hickman in general. I think the art was a big part of it. Anyway, I still haven't read any of the stuff post this because I was waiting for it to kind of catch up in the app a little bit. Yeah. From what I've seen, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy stuff like Sword of X and that kind of stuff, or it's X of Swords, or it's 10 of Swords. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy that stuff. And I don't trust Hickman to nail the landing in a way that I'll be satisfied for. But as just like a crazy... I don't know. It's almost like a reboot. It's almost like a reboot of the X-Men in a way because it changes so much stuff or brings in new relationship elements that it's hard to not see this as like a line in the sand of like everything prior to. Even more so than like Grant Morrison did at the time. Like Grant Morrison was kind of updating things, but still like was very like a traditional X-Men adventure story at times. Right. But this one was like I don't know how we come back from this. Yeah. Anyway, interesting. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Marvel app, this is a series that got me on the Marvel app. I had to finish the Red Hulk run that I started years ago. And the best one that I read this year in that run was Red Hulk Scorched Earth. This is by Jeff Parker and Gabriel Hardman. This was just a good time. This was just, like I kind of read this at the height of the pandemic. I hope it was the height of the pandemic. And it was where everybody just kind of hates the Red Hulk. And so he's going around and like getting into fights with all the Avengers who are like, I hate you. And eventually they just kind of settle into like, all right, here's how we're going to use Red Hulk. Steve Rogers steps in and kind of comes up with a plan. And I just thought it was big, bright, colorful, like epic mayhem. It was just fun from start to finish. So Red Hulk Scorched Earth is my pick for that.
Do you have a Red Hulk action figure?
I don't know.
No? You love him.
I know. Is there a pop figure? Someone send me a Red Hulk pop figure.
Oh, I imagine you could just get a regular Hulk and then just paint him red.
And just spray paint it. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So, all right, are we on your last? What's your last?
Yeah, all right. Talk about being surprised by something. I read that Terminator Omnibus that Dark Horse had put out that I just found out Volume 2 is available on Hoopla.
Yeah.
From my other library. Man, I was shocked reading this year by how good these comics were. And I didn't think I could love Terminator again. Or at least I didn't think I could get excited for Terminator anymore. Like, I know I'll always love Terminator 2 and have different feelings about 1 and 3. But I thought, like, after the last 3 Terminator... Oh, my gosh. After the last 3 Terminators...
So many.
I just felt like my love had turned to sand for Terminator.
That happens.
I just felt like that character in the Hellboy movie with the blades when they because he's full of sand, and we find out.
Okay.
I thought I was like, I was full of sand when it came to that. But I read this and I was like, these are so good. These are like fun and exciting, and they all have to kind of step away from the Sarah Connor, John Connor stuff because they can't step on Cameron's toes. But they still find a way to do that. Like, they have to go find this other Sarah Connor, and, like, these other Terminators are out. Or this group is just going into the past, and they're kind of lost. And then there's that ridiculous big Terminator versus Terminator fight in this, like, small town, and they just level the town. And it's just, like, insane. And I didn't think, like... Because the Terminator movies tend to be these big action-packed films. I didn't think they could match that, but you read some of it, it's like, this is great. It was such a surprise and joy to remember why I like Terminator.
One of the advanced copies that I just have that I'm going to be sharing in the coming weeks is a Terminator versus Transformers. So I'll let you know.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll let you know how that goes.
And
nice. Well, I'm glad.
I was kind of disappointed when I read that RoboCop Terminator, RoboCop versus Terminator. I was a little like disappointed by that, and I think maybe had I read that first, I would have been like, "Well, this was fine. Terminator's not great anymore." But then I read this, and it was like, "Woo! Terminator's the top of the world."
Are you excited about Terminator: Back to the Future, which is coming out? No, it's Transformers Back to the Future. I can't remember which direction it goes, but I'm excited about that, too.
I'm excited to read Volume 2 of this omnibus.
Okay, well, I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
My final pick is Batgirl Summer of Lies by Hope Larson. And this was fun because, look, I have a soft spot in my heart for Barbara Gordon's Batgirl, and I feel like, is it New 52 that brought her back as Batgirl? It's been a long time.
Yeah, Gail Simon's run brought her back.
Was just a long time since I felt like Batgirl really found her groove. Like the Burnside Batgirl, the look was cool. It was still kind of struggling though to find like what is this character about. I feel like this is part of the Rebirth arc, which has been relatively good for Batgirl. Like Batgirl and the Birds of Prey has been a good time. But this one, Batgirl Summer of Lies, is a big Batgirl Nightwing team up. And it has a lot of flashbacks to the old school, like Batgirl and Robin days. Mm-hmm. It was like it was written for me. And I loved it start to finish. More of that is what I wanted. So that's my final favorite. My top 5 of 2020 graphic novels was Batgirl Summer of Lies by Hope Larson.
Well, I don't know if you remember, Nick, but 2020... it was a pretty big pandemic.
I do remember.
And so, like, what happened was...
And it tends to just go on and on there. More about X-Men comics in 2020. You get the idea. You can find full episodes at radiomeanwhile.com. And remember, stick around for next week when I'm joined by Sally Jacoby Murphy, the director of the Fred and Harriet Taylor Memorial Library, and one of my oldest friends. So listen in there. All right, that's going to do it for this special episode. We'll see you next time on How's Things.